Hey Frag fam, Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. So today I am bringing you a list of 6 attractive and daring fragrances. So that might sound like an oxymoron, which generally that is the case. Usually, something either smells good or it doesn't. However, there are fragrances in the middle where they do have a challenging side to them, but they also have this like sex appeal side as well, where they just smell really good to certain people. So this is gonna be a list of fragrances where I'm not saying these are mass appealing. There's definitely gonna be people that would be turned off by these, but in the right situations, these fragrances can work amazingly. So if you're interested in hearing about these 6 fragrances, please stick around. But first, let's roll that intro. All right, welcome back. So like I said, 6 attractive and daring fragrances, and I'm gonna change things up here a little bit. Normally, and I've clarified this many times, I don't do rank lists. Here I think I'm going to, but in a slightly different format. So this isn't gonna be ascending order from worst to best fragrance necessarily, at least to me in my nose, but I'm gonna put it in the order of what is, in my opinion, the least challenging fragrance to the most challenging fragrance. Of course, all the fragrances in this list do have a challenging side to them, but they also do have that kind of appealing side to them as well. So with that clarified, we're gonna jump straight into the number 6 spot. And starting us off at the number 6 spot, we have a fragrance from Memo Paris. This is African Leather. And I've talked about this fragrance numerous times on this channel. It's been about a month or 2 since I brought it up last, but this is one of my favorite fragrances in my collection. If I had to get rid of all of my fragrances that I own and only keep 10 niche fragrances, this would be in that list. I absolutely love this fragrance to death. This thing smells amazing. Not only do I enjoy it, but my fiance absolutely loves this one as well. And that actually goes for all the fragrances on this list. These are ones that she does enjoy, believe it or not. Not only that, I've had positive encounters with other people who have enjoyed these fragrances as well. So these again definitely do have the appeal, but they do have a challenging side, which I can objectively say. So what is this fragrance all about? So African leather, this does have a very dominant note of leather, and you can get that instantly right when you spray it on. In this case, it is definitely not a clean new car leather. This is an older, like slightly animalic leather, not fecal. This doesn't smell like, poop or anything like that, but it does kind of have this dirty side to it. It's not like ombre leather from Tom Ford. That's a very clean new car leather. This one is not like that at all. There's also cumin in here, giving it, that kind of edgy spiciness. A lot of people don't enjoy the note of cumin, so if you don't like cumin, you might not enjoy this one. I personally don't have an issue with that note, so in here it's totally fine to me. There's also oud in here, which again, it's not a fecal oud, but it is oud, and if you don't enjoy oud, you probably won't enjoy this fragrance. A good fragrance, it's very high quality, smells great. The sexiness in this one comes from the cardamom and the saffron, so you get that sweet spiciness from both those notes. They really kind of round this thing out, make it a lot more wearable. There is a little bit of patchouli giving you kind of this leafiness. This is just a great fragrance, very sexy. To me, like I said, the leather and I would say probably the cardamom are the most dominant to me, followed up by the cumin and then the oud. So, a dirty-ish fragrance, but it does have the sexiness to it at the same time. This is one, again, that I really like. Definitely one that I recommend you guys check out and get a sample of. So, again, at the number 6 spot, that was Memo Paris African Leather. So moving along to the number 5 spot, this is one of the oldest fragrances in my collection. This was my signature scent for years. I've done a review on this fragrance. I really love this thing a lot. I actually wore this in college a ton, worked really well for me. This one is from Comme de Garcons. This is Black. So this thing is basically, it's a very gothic fragrance, very dark. The name Black and just the way the bottle looks is perfect for this fragrance. Honestly, if the juice was a little bit darker, that would be even more fitting. So as far as notes go, this one has black pepper, incense, frankincense, birch, there's licorice in here, cedar, leather, lots of these dark, heavy notes, and it's pretty woody as well. So when you first spray it on, you get hit with that incense and then that frankincense. This thing is ultra smoky. This gives you vibes of, if you've ever smelled cade oil or birch tar, that ultra smoky stuff, this smells like that, if not smokier. This is one of the smokiest fragrances I've ever smelled. Luckily, that doesn't stick around for a long time. After about an hour and a half, the smokiness definitely tames and you know, it lightens up a little bit, and this turns into a lot fresher, greener fragrance. But within that first hour and a half, this is definitely on that ultra smoky side, which can be challenging. There's also leather in here, which is kind of the same story as the last fragrance. It's not a new cart leather. This is kind of on that dirtier leather side. You know, the birch tree here just adds to that kind of smoky, woody nuance. You do get the cedar here, which the cedar really comes out in the dry down. And the thing with this fragrance is you can't spray it on yourself, smell it, and judge it that way. That's not how this fragrance works. This is one where the sillage is what really works and smells great. When I discovered this fragrance, it was from somebody else that was passing by. I actually asked them what they were wearing, and I'm telling you, the sillage on this stuff is amazing. In that dry down, this turns into an amazing green, piney kind of sweet fragrance. That licorice really, you know, pops out in that dry down, adding to the kind of that rich sweetness, and then that cedar just, you know, takes it home. And this is just a great fragrance. But again, it is on that challenging side. You do have that smokiness all the way into the dry down, you know, that leather's there. So there are these challenging sides to it. It's pretty spicy as well from that black pepper, but it does have this appeal to it as well. And like I said, I wore this in college. I worked at a nightclub. You know, I wore this when I went out and stuff, and this definitely worked. Honestly, I wasn't as into fragrances back then, so I didn't quite have the knowledge. I just knew that this stuff smelled really good, and it had worked for me in the past. A phenomenal fragrance that literally nobody knows about. This is one you guys should definitely sample. They have it at Lucky Scent if you're interested. So again, that was Comme des Garçons Black. So next at the number 4 spot, we are moving on to an extremely spicy fragrance. Honestly, one of the best spicy fragrances I have ever tried. This one is from Andy Tower, and this is L'air du Desert Marocain, colloquially known as LDDM. And like I said, you know, this one isn't so much challenging because of like some animalic note, but it's just because this thing is so spicy and dark that some people honestly label this as unwearable. I disagree with that. I think this thing is quite wearable, but again, this is not mass appealing whatsoever, and this is definitely a situational fragrance. So spicy, this thing has a ton of coriander and cumin. Those are your 2 spices here, and the cumin is pretty dominant. So again, if you don't like cumin, this might not be the fragrance for you, but I don't have issues with it. I think it works just fine on my skin, and I really dig it here. You also do get this kind of lavender touch. It's not heavy, but you do get this faint aromatic touch from it. There's also a lot of amber in this fragrance, and then cedar. So it is honestly a pretty sweet fragrance. It's not just spicy. It does have this sweetness to it, this kind of resinous quality coming from that amber, and then that cedar is definitely there as well, giving you just this green woody backbone that works really good with the lavender here, the aromatic touches and that woodiness. I think it adds to this fragrance really nicely. But you know, front and center are those spices, that coriander and that cumin, and then I would say that amber is pretty prominent as well. This is spicy, sweet, and then it's aromatic and green, you know, so those are kind of in the background. Nonetheless, a phenomenal fragrance from this house. This is a really good entry-level fragrance into this house. Andy Tower, he's kind of known for making kind of these weird, quirky fragrances. He has a vetiver fragrance, which I've almost bought at times. It has this really weird vegetal, like almost like rotten vegetable smell to it. Really unique, and he just has these other quirky fragrances. They're all very high quality, but they're all kind of weird at the same time. This is kind of a good fragrance to give you an idea of what the house is about, and it's really nice as well. So like I said, this is definitely challenging. I can objectively say that yes, you know, the cumin here, the heavy coriander, and then that amber, which is really dominant, you know, those kind of do make this thing just a little bit challenging, and it is definitely a situational fragrance, but I find it very wearable. I have no issues wearing this fragrance. I've worn it many times. I really love it, and again, my fiance digs this thing a lot as well. So again, at the number 4 spot, that was Andy Tower's LDDM. So diving straight into the number 3 spot, we have a fragrance from Tom Ford. This one is Tobacco Oud Intense. And this is honestly one of my favorites. And honestly, if I had to get rid of like my Tom Ford collection for some reason, or if I had to start selling them off one by one, this would be honestly one of the last like 3 bottles that I'm keeping out of probably the 13 or 14 that I have. I really like this stuff a lot. Not only do I enjoy it, but my fiance and my mom both love this thing a lot. About 2 months ago, I did a video where I just had them blind smell different Tom Ford fragrances, basically my entire Tom Ford collection. And I want to say, if I remember correctly, this was ranked 2nd or 3rd place in that video out of the 13 or 14 Tom Fords that I have. So they really, really like this stuff. If you're familiar with the original Tobacco Oud, this is pretty similar. Of course, they've made changes, you know, just to make it a standalone fragrance. In this case, it is longer lasting, but they've also added this unique animalic twist. In this case, they've added castoreum. Now, to me, I'm not getting like a super dirty animalic note here. It's more of like a heavy musky note, or like a dirty musky note, which If you don't like musk in your fragrances, like an animalic musk, you probably won't enjoy this one. But if you do, or maybe if you're looking to try that, you know, at least get a sample of this thing. I think it works in this fragrance really, really well. And like I said, you know, this is similar to the original tobacco oud. Once you smell it, you can immediately pick up the similarity in the DNA. It has that same dried leaf tobacco here. You get that very dark woody oud. It's not a fecal oud. The amber is in here from the original, but like I said, they've added that castoreum, kind of changing things up. There is some labdanum in here and then patchouli as well, just kind of adding to that dirtiness. Nonetheless, it's a great fragrance. Like I said, it has this appeal to it coming from that amber and then that tobacco. Then for the challenging side, you get the castoreum and then the oud. So a great, great fragrance from the house. Really, really long lasting. This stuff is nuclear, only a few sprays, and that'll last you all day. Again, a great one. Check this out if you can. I did want to mention that I do know this is discontinued. Some people might be wondering, why did I include a discontinued fragrance in this video? Well, beforehand, I did look this up online, and there are still a couple of retailers selling it for a pretty good price. You can find this from the ones that I looked at for around $240, which is very reasonable. Honestly, that is below retail. So you can still find this for basically the same price it was going for before the discontinuation. That's why I'm including it in this video. So again, here at the number 3 spot, that is Tom Ford's Tobacco Oud Intense. So moving along to the number 2 spot, we are talking about a fragrance from Amouage now. This is one of their best sellers. I should say the original version of this fragrance is one of their best sellers. That one is known as the Blue Beast. This is the new flanker, Interlude Black Iris. And that is a really dark bottle. There we go. So this is still definitely a challenging fragrance. You know, I think some people thought that they were going to completely modernize it, you know, change it up, make this thing very wearable. This is definitely still Interlude in here. The DNA is 90% the same, if not more, as the original. What they've done here though is they have definitely removed some of those more challenging notes, and then they've actually added some nice wearable stuff on top of that. So here you still get the leather, the oud, the incense from the original. Those are kind of like the main stage players in that fragrance. There was also a lot of Apopanax in the original, which is kind of like this smoky balsamic note. They've removed that, and here they've replaced it with orris root, which is where the name Black Iris is coming from. They've actually added violet leaf here as well. There's bergamot, which I think there was bergamot in the original, but they've added rosemary. So they do have 3 new additions. And I think that violet leaf, that rosemary, and definitely the orris root here make this thing a lot more wearable. Now the orris root here it's coming across to me a little bit sweet and slightly makeup-y or waxy in a way. It's reminding me a little bit of the orris, or I should say the iris that you get in the Dior Homme line. You know, that kind of sweet, waxy vibe. You kind of get that here, not quite as much so. The violet leaf here is definitely there, aiding in that. I do get a nice slightly green, sweet, spicy touch, and I believe that is coming from the rosemary. Again, still very smoky, still very leather heavy, very oud heavy. This is definitely like a heavy Middle Eastern fragrance through and through, so not something easy to wear. This is still gonna be a dressed up special occasion style fragrance, but like I said, the orris root, the rosemary, and then the violet leaf have taken this thing into a little bit more of a wearable territory, and honestly, I think that they've made this thing smell even better. You know, I never really had the urge to buy the original, but when I tried this fragrance, there was something about it that made me want to have the bottle. It has this, like I said, this sweet or lightly sweet kind of waxy opening with like this spicy green touch, and as it dries down, you get a lot more of that Interlude DNA rising up. So a fantastic flanker. I think this is one done right. It made the original more wearable without removing the original's DNA, so to speak. So again, phenomenal fragrance from the house. That was Interlude Black Iris from Amouage. Okay, so we're finally at the number 1 spot, and here at the number 1 spot, I can confidently say that this is the most challenging fragrance in my collection. Nonetheless, it's in this video for a reason, and that's because this is like the fragrance that is teetering on the edge of almost too daring, but it is still kind of in that like sexy, edgy territory. There's something with fragrances where, you know, the harder they are to wear, almost the more appealing they are to the people around you, just because of that edginess that they have. And like I said, this is the fragrance that fits that bill perfectly. This one is from ROJA Parfums, and this is Musk Oud. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, when I first got this fragrance in, I was scratching my head and I was like, can I even wear this? Like, is this gonna be a novelty fragrance? I have worn it, and I can say that this honestly does smell really nice, and I definitely dig this stuff. Not only do I like it, but about, I want to say a month ago, I can't remember, maybe a few weeks ago, I did a smell and rate video, a blind smell and rate video with my fiance where she tried my entire ROJA Parfums collection. And if I remember correctly, this was either number 1 or number 2. It was a toss up between Amber Oud and Musk Oud, this one, that were her favorites, but they were both in the top 2, and I just can't remember if it was this one at the number 1 spot or Amber Oud. Either way, she absolutely loved this fragrance. And again, that's just because it has like this edginess to it. As far as the name Musk Oud, that is the perfect name. I get a ton of musk. That is the most dominant note here. Not only do you get musk, but there's actually musk mallow here as well. There is leather as well. And the leather here is not just a dirty leather, but it is an animalic leather. The musk mallow and the musk, same story. It's not like, it's definitely not a clean musk, and I wouldn't even say it's like a dirty musk, but it's like this filthy animalic musk, but it is still wearable at the same time. And the reason that's the case is because the oud here is honestly on this like sweeter, creamy side. It's not a fecal oud in any way, which if it was, this would honestly be too much. But I think it's been done to perfection. There's also rose here, so this is technically an oud rose fragrance. However, the rose here, it's on like this fruity side. It's not like a powdery rose or like a jammy rose. It's like this sweet, fruity rose, which works really nice. There are some citruses in the top helping with that a little bit, but for the most part, you're getting a ton of that musk, a ton of that leather, a ton of that oud, and then a touch of that kind of fruity rose in the background. So again, Musk Oud, it's a very fitting name through and through. Challenging, daring, but sexy at the same time. If you want to smell like what a real musk would smell like, a real musk note, this is vegan, of course, because you can't source real musk nowadays, but something that is about as close as you can get to real musk, this is the perfect fragrance to do it. So again, here at the number 1 spot, an awesome fragrance from ROJA Parfums. That is Musk Oud. Well, there you guys go. Those were my top 6 daring and attractive fragrances. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support. And then that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to write a comment, maybe let me know some challenging fragrances that you have tried, or just let me know any other thoughts you have, as well as some new video ideas or topics. That would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you've not already, if you could hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification, that would be amazing. That way you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.